Friends, welcome to my workplace at Ranaghat, West Bengal, India. This is a very hard cataract. Nuclear sclerosis is grade 5. Let us observe this surgery. The main incision is being made with a 2.8 mm steel keratome at around 11:30 o'clock. It is done. Now there was no aqueous leak, so this is a side port on the right side of the main incision, again no aqueous leak, and this is another side port on the left side of the main incision. So if there is no aqueous leak after any stab incision, we can complete all the incisions and then do next steps. An air bubble has been injected, and beneath this air bubble trypan blue dye is being applied over the anterior capsule. And immediately after application of the dye is washed out with a 23G Simcoe and BSS. It is done. Now 2% hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose is injected to fill off the anterior chamber, and the SPMC is applied over the corneal epithelium for better visibility. And now capsulorhexis is being done with a utrata forceps. The anticapsule is torn by the tip of the utrata. A capsular tag is raised. This tag is guided anti-clockwise all around, remaining at a certain distance away from the margin of the dilated pupil. In this case, I aimed for a 5.5 mm rhexis, not a very large rhexis. And we will see that this rhexis will overlap the optic of the intraocular lens. The anterior capsular rim will overlap the optic of the intraocular lens in most of the places. Hydrodissection is being done very carefully, and the nucleus is rotated. Visco is again injected, and now is the time to introduce the tip of the phaco needle. And this is the exposed part of the needle. For this hard cataract, this is adequate exposure. The tip of the phaco needle goes into the anterior chamber with its bevel down, with irrigation on. Some superficial cortical lens matter is removed. Then the handpiece is turned to make the bevel up towards the cornea. And now with a very small chopper that I use, it is known as Mohanta chopper, I push the nucleus little down and bury the tip just in front of the main incision. Go through the substance of the nucleus under the surface towards the opposite equator, and then use the chopper along the track. This technique is known as submarine chop because the tip is under the surface. The nucleus has been divided completely into two heminuclei. Each heminucleus is divided with the same principle. The phaco needle goes through the substance of the lens matter, and it is chopped along the track made by the phaco needle. Now each nuclear piece is tilted, its apex is brought towards the center of the anterior chamber, and it is emulsified. Phaco energy, ultrasonic energy is being used. That is being used in this case is 80%. Flow rate is 45 ml per minute. Vacuum is 450 mm of mercury. The machine being used is Ocular Cataract 3 from Switzerland. And we are at the last piece by this time. At this time we have to be very careful. If necessary, we can decrease the parameters, we can decrease the vacuum to about 200, we can decrease the flow rate to about 30, but in this case I didn't do anything. I just removed the chopper and with control of the foot switch I managed the last piece at the same vacuum and same flow rate, that is 450 vacuum and 45 flow rate. Now the first thing I have to do is remove the small nuclear piece that is left in the anterior chamber, and I am using a 23G Simcoe to escort it out. Once this is done, the cortical aspiration can be done with any device. We can use bimanual irrigation aspiration as in this case, or coaxial irrigation aspiration, or by the Simcoe cannula itself. There are some cortical lens fibers at 6 o'clock. At this moment the irrigation is through the right side port, aspiration from the left, and here I have caught the posterior capsule. So I use reflux, come superiorly. Now I change hands to remove the cortex at 2 o'clock. And it is done. And now the very thin fibers at 6 o'clock are to be removed. I inject a bit of SPMC, that is hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose, and now I am going to use the 23G Simcoe to remove the fine lens fibers from 5:30 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Yes, this gentle maneuver is possible by the Simcoe, a very gentle instrument. Now this is the lens. This is a hydrophilic acrylic single piece aspheric monofocal ocular lens from Appasamy Associates. It is called Naspro, a beautiful hydrophilic lens. It is being implanted now. We have enlarged the main wound little bit. The leading haptic goes into the capsular bag, and the trailing haptic also goes into the capsular bag just by a push of the irrigating probe. And now whatever visco was there in the lumen of the cartilage is coming out as I use the irrigating probe. And we are almost done. Little bit of moxie is injected and the side ports are closed by hydrating corneal stroma on either side of these stab wounds. Once this is done, we are at the last step of the surgery, a final lavage of the anterior chamber with pure BSS. This is very much essential to decrease the incidence of TAS, because when we inject moxie or anything, something goes inside along with that. So we have to remove all the particles and leave the antechamber like this. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope this video will help you in developing your surgical skills. Be a great surgeon and serve your patients with love, respect, compassion, and great surgical skills.